Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Today, our agenda, as Arthur was introducing, is about post-processing for the 2023.1 release cycle for HyperMesh. And the agenda, so the topics that we're going to touch base with are HyperMesh post, hyperview, discussions about update on the results interface, and then plotting. Then we're going to have, obviously, a QA session. I'm going to cover now almost historically the HyperMesh post side. I want to mention that 2023.1 has been a kind of short release because we have been focusing, as you know, on the big 2023 cycle where we really moved to the new user experience, to the let's say to the new user interface, and we made the biggest announcement in terms of performances and stability. But obviously, we had been keep on working hard to not just fixing issues and stabilize the product, but work also to get things done from all the fronts, from being this consistency, user experience, enhancement, making attention to the customer requests and such. So for HyperMesh post, the content that I want to share with you is this one on the user experience. It's a small thing, but we have been now, let's say, harmonized with HyperView also from a look and feel standpoint. So we have a derived load case dedicated ribbon icon that leads you to the derived load case superpositions and envelope as of now for HyperMesh post. We have been adding the complex filter support for both vector and tensor. So as you can see here, once you are in the tensor, but you could be also in the vector plot, we're exposing the complex filter with the, let's say, real deployment of the complex expressions, the harmonic expressions, considering the magnitude and the phase. Then we have been adding the possibility to directly use the XML generated by the results query, let's say saving mode, directly in from the GUI. So people that are familiar with the results query, you know that in HyperMesh, I can build a query and then I can save this query, and the files that are saved are namely two. There is a TCL file, which is actually the driver of any possible batch automation. But this TCL file does nothing than ideally loading again the same deck that you have imported, loading the results in HyperMesh, so basically creating an HyperMesh database with model and results, and then firing a TCL command which parses this XML file. Now you can take right now this XML file, you can rename it, you can change its content based on the needs. You can even add additional queries, change the numeric precision, change the results type or component, the output file, and the other options that are available. And then once you have, for example, a saved HyperMesh database with already model and results loaded, or you're working with an in-session model and results, you can directly use that XML. So this goes together with possibility of further enhancement and automations, but also user experience. Obviously, on the results query, we are keep on doing small yet important enhancement. This also comes from a request which are dealing with nonlinear cases and where they want to track, for example, the output coming out of the last simulation step in a nonlinear case. Obviously, in the past, the results query was hard coding or kind of absorbing the simulation step on a specific ID. So let's assume you have run one where your simulation step is the 10th frame, the last one. And then you want to apply the same query on a next run. Then for whatever the reason, the last step is a simulation index 12. Now, you don't want to change the XML file and the query. You just want to use this kind of a wildcard approach. So we have been introducing, as you can see here, the string left to tackle this type of approach. This is obviously available not just for nonlinear cases. You can imagine you want to take the last frequencies or the last, let's say, time step on any simulation. Last but not the least, considering as well the harmonization, the beam stress tool has been released since many releases back. It was having a dedicated load case switcher. Now the load case switcher has been absorbed by the results browser. So just by changing the current load step, you will be able to change the visualization, so the data provider to the evaluation. Again, is a small enhancement, but which goes into the directions of a full harmonization and a full synchronization among all the workflows that are provided in HyperMesh Post. With that said, I'm handing over to Varun to give you the extra news about HyperView and the results interface. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, so let me share a few updates for HyperView and results interface in 2023.1. In terms of content, yeah, this was a small release, as Michele mentioned. It comes close on the heels of a major release, which was 2023. Having said that, we did make quite a few small but useful enhancements, which customers have been requesting for some time. We also addressed several important bugs. I'm not going to go into details of those in this presentation, but you can refer to the release notes. So let me start off with the HyperView enhancements. So I'll mention a few notable ones here, which you need to be aware of. First one is a small feature we have added to the section cut context. This aligns the display view normal to the section cut. You can find this option on the right-click menu. So wherever you see a section cut list, either here in this dialog or in the browser, if you right-click, you will see an option called Align View. What it does is makes the view normal to the section cut. As you may be aware of, we had the reverse option for quite a while, where you can actually create a section cut normal to the screen, but there are many use cases where users have actually a section cut and they would like to see the display normal to that section cut. And so this option allows you to do that. For now, we have put this in the context menu. Maybe in a future release, we might actually introduce a button or an icon somewhere in the toolbar to do this in one click. Next one is a couple of mouse control options we have introduced in the new user interface. This is for circle zoom and vertical zoom. As you may be aware of, these options existed in the classic user interface, and many customers prefer to use the circle zoom especially, and so they've been requesting for it. So we have added it under the default mouse controls. Circle zoom is available using Alt and middle mouse button, and vertical zoom will be available using a combination of Shift, left and right mouse button keys. The next one is shortcuts for previous view and reverse view. Again, these were available in the classic user interface, so we have now introduced them here in the new user interface. They can be accessed through the shortcuts B and Shift plus B. Next one is I want to mention we did do a few GUI improvements for notes and measures. This was based on some customer feedback. So for instance, for the notes context, there is a text editor where you can input the various expressions and other text. And here in this dialog, it's fully resizable now. So both the field names view and the description view are resizable now. And we have introduced an apply button here. So what that means is you could make changes in the dialog and hit apply and instantly view them in the graphics display without having to close the dialog and see the changes. And lastly, we have added a preference option to turn on off the smooth transition between the views. You may have seen that when you change between different standard views in HyperView, we do a sort of view transition on the screen. This can cause some extra draw calls and leads to performance issues with scripting especially. So users can turn them off if they don't prefer to see it. This is available in the preference option, and there are also corresponding TCL APIs to do the same. Then Coming to results interface, I want to mention a few important updates we have done. We did many updates, especially for Nastran, specifically for customers interested in random response, arrow elasticity, specifically the solution 146. So let me mention a few here. First one is we have improved support for solution 400 post-processing. We have fixed a number of bugs, especially related to results visualization. And we also show now the proper subcase, step, and substep hierarchy in the browser. We have also added support for more NVH results, such as ERP results, sound pressure, vibration intensity, etc. We do now support cparam elements for both the MSC and NX Nastran flavors. And then coming to punch file, we have supported 11 new element types now in Nastran punch file, which you see on the screen. These are several elements such as bar, beam, elastic, hexa, etc. And then we can also read the MC fraction results and plot the response of each natural mode now. And then we can also read more random response and random gust response results. This is supported across the OP2, HTF5, and PCH formats. We also support the SORT2 formats for several result types. So these are the updates we have done in this release for Nastran, which I'm sure many customers will benefit from. And then coming to LSDyna, we have added DSB out result reading support for binout files. We can read mass properties from SSStat files. And we have also added support for RC force reading. And then lastly, I want to mention on the EDM side, we have added support for multisphere and polyhedral particles. So with that, let me hand over the presentation to Sandesh.
So let's go ahead and look at the updates we have in HyperMesh plotting, hypergraph, and reporting for this release. Now let's start with the plotting functionalities updates in HyperMesh itself. For this release, we made several enhancements to the chart entity that we had introduced in the last release. So in the last release, we quickly saw how you can directly input, a table of X and Y data, and you can get a quick chart out of it. Or if you had a table inside HyperMesh already, you could get a chart out of it, a line chart mainly. This release was mainly focused on improving the functionalities on the result side, and our goal was to get to the same level where HyperView today has the build plot panel. So with any given result file that is loaded in the HyperMesh post right now, we have now added an ability to create a chart out of any given entities. So you could select multiple entities and you could create a chart out of them with maybe entity result versus entity ID. Or you could select single entity and you could trace its values over the given selected simulations. So let's go over them one by one. One of the major updates that we had to add for this were an ability to select multiple simulations, and that has promptly been added now. So when you go into the chart entity and select results as the source of data, you would be able to see that for load case selection, you would be able to use this new widget. When you select that, you would also see the list of selected load steps, and then you can use that data for plotting after that. In addition to that, one of the nicest things about charts is that they can allow you the ability to cross plot, something that we cannot see in the result visualization, but it's possible in the plotting. So that we have now enabled. In this example here, I was trying to get a plot for a node over a current simulation or current subcase on how I would get displacement for applied forces. So many cases have now become available with this little improvement. And in addition to that, we were realizing that when we look at the chart preview, in order to improve the interface here for a user to look at these values, there was already an option. You could right click on this and you could get a table of values that are plotted on the screen. But in addition to that, now if you select the curve and you hover over any point, you should be able to see a tooltip that will tell you about the values that exist on that particular point. Now that gives you more insight, but now really the goal is to set the stage for adding more workflows on the basis of this chart entity. Now let's move on to the other updates. Now on the reporting side, we spent some time in mainly stability related improvements, also the performance improvements. One of the cases that I would like to bring up here. So there used to be an issue with the component summary module. We took some time to realize where we can fix some gaps, and now even with the models that are, let's say, about 5 million elements big with almost 200 components, where we used to almost hang the product, now we are taking less than 2 minutes to finish the reporting for component summary, which also includes getting the list of components, the material assignments on them, or the thicknesses. Yeah, it has really changed the game for big models where we used to see some limitations earlier. Same goes for image capturing in loop modules. So that happens mainly on the result side now. This side falls on the model build side. On the results reporting side, there were some cases where loop would take too much time to just capture images. There were various reasons. Now this was one of the worst case. After using some workarounds, we were able to bring it down to maybe somewhere halfway. But now with the new release, we have made some long-term improvements that is bringing this time down from 40 to 3. I don't even want to talk about the percentage of improvement here. This is just a different ballgame here. Apart from that, there used to be some limitations around HWC support. So if you're trying to record the complete report automation, there were some note-related settings that would not get captured earlier. We have added some extra support for HWC now. So that would now properly capture the note-related settings or any updates that you make when you're setting the loop module for hotspot search. And now that does the better job. So if you were having any issues with maybe full automation with HWC using report, I would say try 23.1, and that would be your release to go from here on. Having said that, let me now quickly summarize through what we have seen so far today. So like Michele mentioned right in the beginning, we've mainly focused this release on stability and infrastructure improvements because it was right on the heels of 23, which was a major release for GUI improvements. Having said that, we ended up adding some updates in the derived load case workflow in HyperMesh. There were some complex filter support related improvements in the vector and tensor plot in HyperMesh. We also saw in a quick snapshot how the XML can be directly used for result queries, and you could even use special strings there to get to the last frame of any given nonlinear load case. In HyperView, you saw some improvements in the section cut, some keyboard shortcuts added, and also some improvements in the notes and measure context. There were some improvements in the Nastran, LSDyna, EDM interface support. And in addition to that, we just spoke about chart entity improvements where we have almost come up to par with build plots panel in HyperView. So it gives you a full insight of charting in HyperMesh post as well. And eventually we spoke about some performance improvements in reporting. Having said that, we are going to conclude the section of this webinar. So thank you everyone for your attention so far.